Our guest today is the first Hispanic lawmaker Illinois sent to Washington. His interest in politics was sparked when he delivered newspapers to the late Mayor Richard J. Daley in City Hall. Our guest speaker's political skills came to light with the election of the late Mayor Harold Washington, and he was elected alderman from the 26th Ward. He was born in Chicago and graduated from Northeastern Illinois University. Our guest today and his wife Zoraida have two beautiful daughters, Omira and Jessica. Ladies and gentlemen, United States Congressman from Illinois' 4th Congressional District, Luis Gutierrez. Congressman?
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Let me thank my good old buddy very much. And Dr. Green will be consulting soon, again, on my upcoming book, which we'll have to come and promote here at the City Club. Make sure that we get a good price on the book when we do that. As always, I want to thank my friends, all of you here at the City Club, for the very kind invitation to join me. I can't help but remember the last time I spoke with you, we had a serious discussion about the direction of the city of Chicago, and a little bit of mayoral politics was even discussed. As I talked about my priorities for the city, I even emphasized the importance of not investing too much time or effort or any public money in the Olympics. Well, they told me there was no public money, but I think that may have changed, but it's only in the form of a guarantee. So maybe there isn't any public money. Let's be on the upside here today. I'm glad to see that's all been taken care of, and I got to say that it's a tribute to the power of a City Club speech. It's probably too early to talk about 2011 race for mayor, although I know politics is always welcome, even very early in advance here at the City Club. So what you'll hear from me today is much less personal than I had to say nearly a year ago. At that time, I talked about my vision for Chicago. I would like to share with you, all of you, because you've been so kind and so gracious and so warm. My wife Zoraida is here with me, and as you can see, stand up. And she's looking really good, right? She's looking. And she's real healthy, she's strong, and she got 100% from the doctor. Everything is good and everything is working and she's doing really good. We just keep working. We'll keep working. It's one of those things you keep battling, but she's winning. And I want to thank her she called me and said, I'm coming to the City Club, I want to hear your speech. That's good. After 29 years, she's not sick and tired of listening to me. So it's really good to have you today here with us. I want you to know that it's a vision I still have for the city. It starts with our schools, and it includes reforming our government, and it ends with smarter and better investments in our people. My vision hasn't really changed, but today I wanted to talk more about a group of people's vision for Chicago, not a Gutierrez vision, but a Latino vision. It's easy enough to say, well, Latinos are changing Chicago and our nation. We know that's true. We see the marches for immigrant rights. We see the changing faces of our neighborhoods and our neighbors. As I look around this room and many of the rooms I speak in across the country, as I talk about immigration and the future of our immigrant community in America, I'm struck by a dichotomy. When I speak to business or political or civic leadership in rooms across America, not unlike this room today, I usually see two different sets of people. I see the attendees, the leaders sitting at the tables. The group is usually more male than female, always more white, usually overwhelmingly so than minority. And then I see the other group of faces at activities such as this one, of people serving the food, clearing the dishes, picking up the napkins, and those faces are usually Latino, often exclusively Latino. It's not easy work. It doesn't necessarily pay well. But it's work, honest work, and it represents exactly what people come here from Guatemala and El Salvador and Mexico looking for, looking for a chance, an opportunity. And I bet that many of you sitting at tables today can tell stories of your first jobs. Some of you are surely immigrants. Most of you had to struggle to get where you're at today. Many of you started at jobs that were nothing but hard work and didn't pay very well either. And yet here you are. And you're exactly where the hardworking people serving us today want to be. That's really the story of America. It's the story of Chicago, and it's the story of our Latino community. I think Latino vision for the future is about how we bridge that dichotomy between the people who have made it, have worked hard to get where they want to be in our city, and those who are still struggling to reach those very goals. It's a big gap, and how we pull together to create a common agenda that serves all of us is a real key to the city's future. Because across America, Chicago and Illinois, immigrants to our nation are starting their new lives in our country in mailrooms, or sweeping floors, or cleaning bathrooms, or picking fruit, or clearing our tables, as they are here today. And all of them want to go, or want their sons or daughters to go, from the mailroom to the boardroom. These immigrants are changing Chicago, and they want to bridge that gap. They want to work as hard as they can for as long as they can so that they can have more for themselves and their families, and they want to contribute to a better Chicago. Because in their hearts, they know they are changing Chicago. And Chicago isn't just changing a little. Chicago isn't just changing a bit on the margins. Chicago is changing dramatically. Chicago is becoming a different city from the one we've all known and become used to living in. Our economy is changing, our expectations are changing, our priorities are changing. The people who make up Chicago are changing. And Latinos are more than at the forefront of that change. Latinos are that change in the city of Chicago. I could prove it with statistics I could recite to you. I could prove it with stories I could relate to you. The facts are clear. According to the U.S. Census, from 1960 to 1970 to 1980 to 1990, our city experienced a decline in population. In 2000, Chicago's population increased for the first time in more than 30 years. Why? Because of people buying $500,000 condos in the Loop? Nope. Because of people buying $1 million homes in Wicker Park? Nope. The answer is simple. Because Chicago's Latino population nearly doubled in 15 short years. Chicago is changing because Latinos in record numbers are making Chicago their home. Latinos are making Chicago grow again. And it's not just Chicago's population that is growing, its potential is growing. A city of Chicago remade by Latinos and immigrants is Chicago that has the opportunity to be an exemplary 21st century American city. A city at the forefront of job creation, of good schools, of fairness and opportunity for all people. One question today, both for Latinos who are changing our city and for everyone who will be changed by them is, what does that change really mean? Latinos must ask themselves how we live up to our potential. We know the numbers, we understand the statistics, we feel the change when we walk down 26th Street, when we read one of Chicago's ever-growing number of Spanish language newspapers, when we see more Latino faces on television news and in the city council and in the state legislature. How do we translate that change into real progress for people? And for non-Latinos who wonder about the changing faces of our city, there are questions too. Some extremist questions on the very right of the newcomers to be here in our nation, to hold jobs, to travel freely, to reunite with their families. And yet, I know that many others look at the increasing number of Latino faces around them and see possibilities. We see neighbors, we see customers, we see artists, we see educators, we see great potential. This new mix, this new diversity, this new space of Chicago is a reason for optimism. Because our new Latino vision for our city's future starts with people. Because it's always been the people who have made and remade Chicago. Chicago doesn't start at the top. Change doesn't start at the top. Change starts at the bottom. Change doesn't start in City Hall. Change starts in the neighborhoods. Change doesn't start in boardrooms. It really starts in people's living rooms. New waves of immigrants have constantly remade Chicago. Germans, Bohemians, Poles, Irish, African Americans. Chicago's rebirth in the 21st century is now the story of Latino immigrants and Latino coalition building. And Chicago's rebirth will be far more than a story of statistics about population. It's a story of people, It's the story of business. It's the story of business owners who run restaurants and clothing stores and bakeries. It's the stories of entrepreneurs from Mexico and Central America and Puerto Rico who run their businesses on Cermak Road and 26th Street and Division Street, who have invested their time and money in the areas of our city, in back of the yards, in Pilsen, in Humboldt Park, that were given up on by past generations and have been remade by the hard work of new Latino immigrants to this country. The rebirth of Chicago is a story of advocates and activists. It's the story of leaders who have refused to believe that it's okay for immigrants to be discriminated against and to live in substandard housing or to be taught in inferior schools. The story of Chicago's rebirth is told every day at Erie House or Centro Sin Fronteras or Alivio Medical Center, where Latinos don't accept that Chicago isn't great enough for every member of our community to have a chance to reach their dreams. The rebirth of Chicago is the story of educators and artists. I want you all to go and visit the Mexican Fine Arts Center or the burgeoning Institute for Puerto Rican Arts and Culture. Artists are infusing Chicago's culture with a new vitality and optimism. Latino educators are showing their personal commitment to assuring that a new generation of Latinos is ready to move into the boardroom, to become doctors, to build businesses. The rebirth of Chicago is the story of people, and the story of people who must learn to speak with one voice. Our Latino community is diverse. I'm proud to be Puerto Rican, and I'm proud to be a Puerto Rican who fights for the rights of immigrants. And I'm even more proud to represent a congressional district that is mostly Mexican American. When I first started speaking out about immigration some 14 years ago, some of my Puerto Rican friends in Chicago would say, "Luis, what are you doing? Why are you so focused on immigrants? Don't forget you're Puerto Rican. We're born citizens of the United States." It sometimes was a cause of real concern and real tension in the Latino community of Chicago. Then as time went by and I spoke out more forcefully for immigrants, many of my Puerto Rican friends would hear from their Mexican friends and co-workers and say, Gutierrez is all right. He's a good guy. He fights for all of us. And increasingly, my Puerto Rican friends and constituents would turn to their co-workers and say, yes, he does fight for all of us. And don't forget, he's Puerto Rican just like me. For many of my Puerto Rican constituents, my advocacy for immigrants has gone from being a source of concern to a source of pride. It's a small step toward our community learning to speak with one voice. Our Latino community needs a vision because we are at a turning point. From Pilsen to Logan Square to Little Village, we need to speak with one voice because our community is facing the same challenges. We want the very best schools for our children. We want to find good jobs and pay good wages. We want access to affordable quality health care. We want to be free from discrimination. To reach these goals for Latinos and all Chicagoans, our Latino community has to take direct action to make our city better. How do we remake our city? For me, the answer is easy. At heart, I'm an activist. I know that nothing comes easy. Our growing population alone is not enough. Growing numbers does not equate to growing power and influence. If a Latino vision for the future of our city will actually lead to a better Chicago, I believe we need to take action in two ways. First, you make your numbers count. Population alone is not enough. We need to naturalize our immigrants. There are over 350,000 permanent residents, legal permanent residents in the state of Illinois, over 200,000 of them in the city of Chicago, who can become citizens of the United States today. We need to help them become citizens of the United States today. We need to register them to vote, and we need to get them to the polls on Election Day. I can tell you one immigrant group in Chicago that understands how this works, that understands the necessity and the value of practical politics. It's an immigrant group with last names like Kelly and Hines and Madigan and Daly. The Irish, from the time they first elected a mayor in our city, have made numbers count. And I don't criticize them for doing that. I applaud them. It's time for Latinos to do the same. Second, after you make your numbers count, you motivate your people. You give our people something to believe in, a reason to naturalize and register and vote in record numbers. And that is the most important part. Chicago's a strong city, a great city, but it's not great enough. Not for everybody, not for all of our people. Our challenges are growing. The CTA threatens to eviscerate its services. The schools threaten to lay off our teachers. If we are to empower and unite Latinos, if we are to build a new coalition, if we are to remake our city, we have to make clear what we stand for. I believe we stand for good schools, for honest government, for investing in people, for great neighborhoods that for great schools that reach into every neighborhood, for health care that is available to every family, for a CTA that functions fully and effectively, for creative ways to sustain jobs and put people to work. It's a turning point. I want to end my brief remarks here today. Unfortunately, I want to share with you that I thought I was going to be able to take the 3 o'clock plane. I have to take the 2 o'clock plane because we have an important debate going on in Washington, D.C. And I want to end with these comments. Last Thursday, I, along with Congressman Flake from Arizona, introduced a bipartisan, comprehensive immigration reform bill in the House of Representatives. I would like to say that because you're never a prophet in your own land, sometimes decided that it wasn't important enough to even include it in the gossip column. The Tribune, I must say, wrote an article about it. More importantly, across the nation, whether it was the New York Times or the LA Times, and today, the Washington Post, with a glowing editorial supporting this comprehensive immigration proposal. Yesterday, I spent the day in LA. I got up at 6, right, son? Left the house at 6:45, got on the 8 a.m. flight, and went out to Los Angeles and spoke to thousands of immigrants who had gathered there to rally for comprehensive immigration reform, and then got home about 10:30. It was one of the best days I've had. It wasn't at home with my family, and it was a great day in Chicago. The temperature was wonderful, but it was a great day because I got together with people, like-minded people, 2,000 miles away, and to see the energy and to see the enthusiasm in their eyes and in their voices and in their very bodies. People who want to make America good for everyone. So our comprehensive immigration reform, many people will say, oh, Gutierrez, you're talking about, the A word again, amnesty. Let me tell you a little bit about our proposal. It says to the 12 million undocumented workers in this nation, if you come forward and you go through a security check, you give us your fingerprints, and you go through a security check, the only violation of the law is the violation that you committed because of your immigration status, and you pay a $2,000 fine, we will give you a work permit for 6 years. And then you work during those 6 years. You work every year of those 6 years. And then you enroll in English classes. And you enroll in civics classes. And then at some point during those 6 years, you got to leave the country and come back legally to the United States. It's not a big loop. They're going to go vacation. They're going to go visit their parents, but they have to leave the country. And then you got to come back and satisfy that you paid every tax dollar that you might have owed during the time you were here undocumented in this country. And if you do all of that, we're going to allow you to apply for permanent residency of the United States. That's what frustrates me so much when they say it's amnesty. We're going to impose what we have to, because amnesty, what is amnesty? I think about Chicago amnesty. That's getting away with some, like turning your back when somebody does something wrong, right? Like not paying a penalty, like not being punished for doing something, like looking away. Ignoring, that's amnesty. We neither ignore nor look away. We say we want to make sure that the penalty is commensurate with the violation of the law. You shouldn't deport people, uproot people, separate families, and turn your back on them for a civil violation of the law. Because if that were the case, then who of us could really withstand the scrutiny about where we came from and why we're here and how we got here? So we say to them that that's the way, but very importantly, we also say we're going to be tough. We're going to be tough on our border. You can build a 20-foot fence across the border. That's why they build or they construct 21-feet ladders to get over 20 feet fences. But let's be smart on our border. We have new technology of sensors and cameras and all kind of technology that can secure our border, because our border should be secure. And we need to put more men and women to monitor those. So we put that money and we put that in place to protect our border. I'm going to tell you something. Today, the penalties are stiff if you reproduce a Social Security card or reproduce some kind of ID so that undocumented immigrants can gain employment. Under our provisions, you're going to go to jail and go to jail for a long time. We're tough on those, but we give an opportunity to those that are here to stay here if they meet the requisite requirements. A lot of people say to me, oh, Gutierrez, they're going to be citizens. Every time I hear the reporters, Gutierrez got a proposal to make them citizens. Think about it a moment. If we were to pass the legislation today, it'd take 2 years before the government would issue the regulations and open up the offices so that people could take advantage. Then I already told you that they have to go down and give their fingerprints. You know how long it takes the federal government to check somebody's fingerprints out. Then you got to pay the $500 fine before of the $2,000 fine. You got to give $500. Well, let's all be clear. That's 3 years at the best, right? Then I told you have to enter a 6-year program, right? So that's 9. Then you have to be at the end of the line. So maybe there's a place at the line for you because you have to go to the end of the line. And you apply again to the government. You said, hey, I proved that I took my English classes, my civics classes, I left the country. Here's another $1,500. We all know it's going to take another year. All right, we're at 10. And you must, according to the law, be a permanent resident of the United States for at least 5 years before you can apply to become a citizen of the United States. I'm already at 15. And I'm being very optimistic of the bureaucracy of the federal government to be able to correctly and timely respond to all of these petitions. So really, I'm talking about when I'm like 70 years old, the first citizen. Now you compare that to 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act, the last time the Congress gave a amnesty or a legalization process. Those folks signed up in 88. By 93 and 94, they were at my citizenship workshops becoming citizens of the United States of America. It was a direct route. We've changed a lot in this country. We've made the kind of changes that are necessary. I'm going to end with this because I would stay here with you, and I really had some comments, but I got to get out there because this is so important. I know that you know it's very important. They're going to allow me to go do my job. America's really at a crossroads. We have a proposal that secures our borders, that brings new technology, that allows people to earn their legalization. We've responded to the xenophobia, to the hatred, to the bigotry, to the bias, with concrete proposals that respond to their very, very issues. So America's really at a crossroads. We do not have the political will. We will not commit the requisite resources to deport 12 million people. We don't have the political will. We won't put the resources to deport 12 million people. It is impossible. The only other thing that America can do then is to integrate those 12 million people into very fabric, social, economic, and political fabric of our society. That's the tradition of America. Secondly, if this were 1850 and we were in Boston and we picked up a newspaper, we'd say those dirty, filthy, ignorant people who are coming to destroy our country, those Catholics that are coming to destroy our country. And they would be referring to the Irish. If it were the turn of the century and it were 1910 and we picked up the New York Times, it would say, only by the rule of law could we contain these people, hope to contain these people, referring to Italian immigrants to the United States of America. They were wrong about the Irish. They were wrong about the Italians. They were wrong about other immigrants that have come to this country, and they're wrong about the immigrants here today. The question remains whether or not we're going to say so, whether or not we're going to stand up with that immigrant community as other Americans have stood up in the past to continue in the finest and the greatest tradition, and that is accepting those that come from the outside to strengthen those that are already here. So thank you so much for having me this afternoon. Have a great lunch, and God bless you all.
Congressman. What can we do to improve the mail service?
I got the answer.
Danny Davis, he's on the
Mail service.
Hire more Latinos. Thank you very much. This is a world's record for the City Club. We are finished. Way ahead. Enjoy your coffee, schmooze, exchange cards. We'll do whatever you want. We'll see you here on Thursday with the State Treasurer.